What's going on, world? It's Dana Harris, and I'm still trying to make math cool again. We're talking about the cosine graph and transformations of the cosine graph. So let's go ahead and get right into this example. We have y equals 4 cosine of 2x and minus 5 pi over 6 and then minus 2. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Now the first thing we want to do is we need to identify the different parts of this particular function. So we have a, we have b, we have c, and we have d. Alright, now for my folks that get confused about variables, I'm going to explain what each one of those letters represent. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first, it's always easy to find the amplitude. Now the amplitude is the distance from the center of this graph to the maximum point or the minimum point. Okay, so the amplitude is the absolute value of a. So whatever this a term is, whatever's in front of the cosine, it's the absolute value of that. So in this case, the amplitude is 4. Okay, so the distance from the center of the graph to the highest point or to the maximum point is 4. The distance from the center of the graph to the minimum point is still 4 units. All right. So next we want to find the period. Okay. What are we talking about with the period? The period is actually going to be 2 pi over b, and the period is the distance on the x-axis that it takes to go through a full wavelength of this graph. And if you're familiar with the cosine function, it starts at the maximum point, it goes all the way down to the minimum point, comes back up to the maximum point. You're going to see that soon. All right, so in this case we have 2 pi and b is 2. Okay, so if I have 2 pi over 2, then I'm just left with pi. Okay, so the period is pi. So this goes through a full wavelength in pi units. Okay, let's go to the horizontal shift. And horizontal shift is also the phase shift. Okay, you might see it either way. All right. Horizontal shift or phase shift. That means it's going left and right. It has to have a direction. Okay, and this one is c over b. Okay, so in this case, c is 5 pi over 6, and then it's divided by b, which is over 2. So we have to simplify that. So we have 5 pi over 6 times 1 over 2, which gives me 5 pi over 12. Okay, 5 pi over 12. I know that's a lot. But now also, since it's minus 5 pi over 6, that means it goes in the opposite direction. So typically when we go minus on a number line, it goes to the left. But in this case, anytime you're dealing with this type of function, if it says minus, that phase shift is going to be to the right, to the opposite direction. Okay, so this is right. Okay, so last thing we need to do is we have the amplitude, the period, the horizontal shift. Let's see vertical shift. All right, vertical shift. And vertical shift, we know it goes up and down. So here, D, okay? And D says minus 2, so it's down 2 units. Okay? So we've identified the amplitude, A, the period, which is 2 pi over b, the horizontal shift, which is c over b, and the vertical shift, which is simply d. Also, always remember, the horizontal or phase shift, if it's minus, it's actually going to the right. If this was a plus, it's actually going to shift to the left. But when we do the vertical shift, if it's minus, it goes down, and if it's plus, it goes up. That's definitely something you want to remember. Young Gurus Math Tutoring, I've got the solution to your math problems, everybody out there.